This is Abnormal Entertainment.
Wisdom like water runs down to my feet. The more that you tell me, the less I can sleep. Time is a weapon that takes every man. Now let me be young, I won't understand. Rise up like smoke, let the edge show. Mountains come crumbling down, let them go. Rise up to sea, oh let me be. And let the waves crash over me.
Hey everybody, this is Daniel Garza. Welcome to another episode of Put It Together. I want to start off as usual thanking my producer, Mr. Kevin Moyers, for all his help and support. Thank you, sir. Inviting everybody to go over to abnormalentertainment.com. Check out all the shows on the network. There's a lot of new shows every day. Visit me at my pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube at Little Mexican, Lilmesican. Check out things that I've got on there. I've got all kinds of random stuff, so just go check it out. For now, we're going to get started because I have a really cool guest today. He's one of my favorite people. Don't tell him though, because it'll go to his head. But his mom has become like another mom. She's really awesome. I met this guy back in, we were just counting it, March of 2012. So we're going over 5 years of knowing him, and he's changed so much in that time. Ryan, hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. Glad to be here, Daniel.
5 years, dude.
It's been a long time.
And how things have changed and morphed, and how we both have been through so much stuff in the last 5 years. But before we get into our own little memory, going down memory lane, tell us how you've been putting it together for the last 5 years. What's going on with you?
I have went from the single bachelor lifestyle to finding the most awesome, beautiful woman. And her and I have been together for about 3 years now.
Right.
And she has a 4-year-old daughter, Lola, that we have full custody of now. So
Nice.
She lives with us too. So I have went from worrying just about myself to now taking care of a family.
Wow.
And then, as if that wasn't enough, I decided to throw a little puppy in the mix.
You know, why not? Why not? The only thing missing is the picket fence, the backyard. But we'll get to that one, I guess, at some point. Let's remind, I know your story, but let's remind the listeners, where were you 12 years ago when we first met and you came to the show for the first time?
I was living in Laguna Beach, and I was in a recovery home, and I had just moved to California, and
Wow.
everything was new, and the people were different and a little bit weird to me. But yeah, I was basically just trying to get adjusted to everything.
Yeah.
And a new lifestyle.
And how it has, you just talked about the recovery home. How's that worked out for you the last 5 years?
It's worked out well. I mean, it started out being something that I knew I needed to do, but at the same time, I didn't want to do it.
Right.
And then once I found out what life's truly all about, then, it just started to build. Like, it started with that first initial thought of, wow, like, this is what it's like, to have real friends and, meaningful relationships. And it just, life is so much more beautiful today. It's full.
Hold on, I'm going to take notes because I forgot to pull out my notepad. You think this is the first time I do this? You just mentioned about California and the differences. Have you adjusted? Are you a California boy now?
I believe I am. I'm considered weird to people in the Midwest.
Really? How's that?
They think that we just live too organic and health conscious.
Which, as we're sitting here, I'm drinking a Mexican Coke, so I don't know how organic that's going to be. So I love this guy. He had Mexican Coke in his fridge when I got here. I was like, yes. Have you, aside from the obvious changes in your life, like work and family and spiritually speaking or philosophically speaking, have you noticed the changes in you?
Absolutely. On a spiritual level, I used to run just on my own will and whatever I thought was best, and I really had no connection with anything bigger than myself.
Right.
And as I've grown in my recovery, my spirituality has enlarged, and I've really moved closer to God and developed a relationship that I rely on. It's not an added bonus. It's one of those things that I have to have in order to stay on the right path.
And how, for people listening out there that might be going through their own, let's call it stubbornness, and saying, I got this. I got this. I don't need any higher powers. Keep that to yourself. I don't need to go to church. I can do this on my own. Whatever, whether it's a recovery, whether it's an illness, whatever the situation may be. What was there a moment in the last 5 years that you said, shit, I really got to change my way?
Yeah, I basically tried to get recovery without having a higher power, and I lasted for a little while, and then, life gets tough, something dramatic happens, and without that help, you're right back in the same spot.
Now, a lot of people think that finding your higher power or finding something bigger than you, and for those of you listening, it doesn't necessarily have to be God or Buddha, or it could be Mother Nature, it could be the universe, whatever, just something bigger. I kind of lost where I was going to go with this. It doesn't always come in a church package or in a group package. Sometimes it comes in an individual that comes into your life, or people, or a job or something. What was it, or was there something for you? Was there something that came into your life and you said, okay, this is the change. This is where I gotta give it up? And
basically, I had a sponsor in the beginning he was very into a relationship with a higher power, but he didn't push having to go to church. And he said that, you can have that good relationship without going to church. If you want to go to church along with that, that's great. But just going to church alone isn't enough. You have to have that relationship.
And I guess, I feel weird because I know you. I feel like I don't want to ask all these tough questions, but I guess it's part of the show. But, did you start by going to church? Was that the first step, or did you just kind of start meditating, or what was your process?
I started meditating, which to someone who's never done it before, It's very strange. The first few times you do it, it's like, okay, I'm just sitting here. What am I supposed to be doing? My brain needs to be focused on something. And there was this huge release once I figured out how to think of nothing, to just completely blank my mind out and let everything go. Right. And that's something that even today I do every single day.
Wow. Because you're a little bit of a workaholic, if I can throw that out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
How does a workaholic, because I know there's probably a lot out there, how does a workaholic find, first of all, the time? Because it's not that the time's not there. We just think we can't find it. I don't have time for that. That used to be my excuse all the time. But how do you find that moment to say, okay, this is my time? And how do you allow your mind to go to nothing?
For one, I put the highest value on that time. So I do that before I go to work. That is number one priority to me, because I know that if I don't do that, then I'm not any good at work.
Wow.
So if I don't find a way to really ground myself, then my entire day will be not productive.
Because you have and we'll talk about that maybe, you have your own company. That's kind of like you clock in before meditation. And so that becomes part of your schedule.
Right.
Same as like a staff meeting or those calls in the morning. Like meditation has to be part of my schedule so now I feel like I'm working on myself or working on my company. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And what I normally do is I normally wake up in the mornings and, after my morning prayer and a short meditation, I go straight into work.
Wow.
Like I'm in that work mindset on what can I knock out? How can I be productive as possible? What can I assign my team members to do? Because I believe that there's enough help with my employees that I shouldn't be wasting time on anything that they can do.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. It's a whole new way of looking at delegating stuff. Were you able to be that kind of a person before?
Absolutely not.
No?
No.
How?
Before, I was just so focused on, myself that I was just stuck. Basically, just stuck in a rut. And there was nothing beyond, substances and the way that I felt and what made me happy. And now I try to shift that focus outward, and I look at the number one thing that's most important in my life are my relationships.
Okay.
Like that's it. Because beyond work and all that, relationships are what hold you together.
Because I've noticed that a lot of employees are actually friends. Because I remember, not this year, last year when we were at your house for your birthday, everybody that was there was people that worked for you. And I was like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. I don't think a lot of bosses, and what's your opinion on this? I don't think a lot of bosses understand that maybe you don't have to hang out with them all the time, but there has to be a more personal relationship with your employees, especially in a smaller company, if you want them to produce at the level that or the standards that you want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it gives them a feeling of worth. Like all of my employees know that I value them and I can't do it without them. And we're a team here. So there's absolutely nothing that I won't do. And one of the rules that I have is I never want to hear anyone say, oh, that's not my job. Because we're all in this together. We all work as a team. And the way that I structure the work is I assign it to people that are capable, that want to grow, that want to learn. And I've got star employees that are always like, hey, what's next? What else do you have? Throw me a curveball.
That's pretty cool. To get people that want to be challenged, to get folks that don't want the easy projects. How do you find those kind of people?
They're few and far in between. I mean, for one, I noticed that I have a very good relationship with those people that strive to become more, that want to give instead of take. That's one of the things that we look at, performance and attitude. If you have a good attitude and you're trying, then we're going to work with you.
Right. When you were putting, and we'll talk more about your business in a minute. He has his own business, which I'm really proud of him. But when you were putting your business together and you were trying to get your team together, was from the interview process, because I think that's where a lot of companies mess up. I think that's I won't say mess up. I think that's one of the they overlook that step as carefully as they should. The interview process or the hiring process. It's like, you might have a great resume, you might come in looking really sharp, but there's always those key words when you're having a conversation. Was there something when you were putting your stuff together that some key element that you said, okay, that's the word I wanted to hear, or that's what I wanted to do?
What I've learned from experience is exactly what you said. The interview process, it's so difficult because I've hired people that look great on paper.
Right.
Absolutely great. They have the degrees, they've got the work experience, and I bring them in, they blow the interview out of the water, and I'm like, wow, I've got to bring them on.
Right.
And I bring them on and it's straight downhill. So what I found is people that think that they really can't do it or that they deserve a challenge, those are the people that I bring on. The ones, for lack of a better word, the underdog.
Got it.
You know, I want that guy that may not be the best right now, but he's going to fight to learn and to grow, and he's going to do his absolute best to get the job done.
Out of all the questions that you ask an interviewer, everything you talk, is there a particular question you can, like, if somebody's out there listening going, well, I want to get my minutes together, but I keep hiring the wrong people. Like, I just can't do it. Is there a key question that you could give them or a conversation they should have that you can suggest?
I look at what's important in my life, and that, as I said earlier, is relationships. So I will go through the normal routine of the interview process, and then I will push a little bit on finding out what their relationships look like.
That's interesting.
And what I found is that if they have meaningful relationships with others, they're going to be a good employee.
That's a good point. Yeah. Because there's a level of commitment, of loyalty, towards somebody else other than just themselves.
Right. And give and take.
Yeah. Because somebody who wants to just be part of the rat race or just wants to keep moving up without losing anything. There's nothing to lose, like their time with their family or whatever. I get that. That's a good point. Cool. Let's move over a little bit to the conversation. So when I met you, yeah, you were a little stubborn when I met you. I'll say that now. You were a little stubborn when I met you. I'm not going to say pig-headed, but a little stubborn. And I remember there being a couple of moments where you were just like, I'm done. I can't do any of this. You were ready to bolt and you stuck through it. And then we lost track of each other for a little bit. And then the next thing I know, you have a girlfriend. I'm like, oh wow, okay, cool, girlfriend. And which Allison, I love her. She's awesome. She's become a really good friend of both Christian and I. But then I find out there's a little girl too. So you go from single on my own to a stepdad. How was that transition?
They were very, very big shoes to fill. But one of the things that I knew was that Allison was put in my life for a reason, and I knew that it was the right thing to do.
Cool.
You know, during my prayer and meditation, I would be talking to God and I'd be like, you know, I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't know if this is what I want. And the one thing that I tried to do throughout all of it is don't think, just do.
That's interesting.
So I shut off my head and my thinking, and I went directly off my heart and what I knew was right and what I knew that God wanted me to do.
Were there necessary lessons or was there a necessary step to take your feelings from single to now a family, basically. Because one thing is to date somebody and maybe move in with somebody, but you go from single to a family. How do your feelings adjust? I guess being a gay man and being in a relationship with no children, I'm trying to figure out, I don't know how to explain it. I was 40 years old and I was like, I'm not going to be in a relationship. Like, I don't want a boyfriend. I want to be alone forever. I want to just date, maybe be a little whore and just do whatever I want. And then all of a sudden I'm with Christian and we have this relationship and now we basically stay at each other's houses and we share closets. And I'm like, when did this happen? And how did this merge? How did you get me? But that was kind of transitional. Two people together. How was it? I guess that's what I'm trying to ask. How was it for you? How was it feeling? How did those feelings transition? Was it gradual? Did all of a sudden, like, you wake up one morning and there's toys in the living room? You're like, where did this come from?
I knew when I first met Allison that she had a daughter, but her daughter was still living in Virginia.
Okay.
And she didn't have custody of her daughter at the time. So in the beginning, it was just Allison and I, and we really got to focus on each other and building that bond between us.
Okay.
And I guess I kind of blocked it out, the fact that she did have a daughter. And I knew in the back of my mind that one day that's going to come back. Like, that's going to be at the forefront and be a major decision that I have to make.
Right.
But, I loved Allison so much that the thought in my head is, if her daughter is anything like her, then it's going to be instant love with her daughter too.
That's true. I think that's out of context, the conversation could be like, oh, so you didn't even think about the daughter. But no, from where I'm listening is like, she's not physically here with us. So let's concentrate on each other. Let's make this relationship strong and know that we can handle anything. And then when that third person comes into our lives, then we're ready for it. We've created the bond, or we've built our walls together, or whatever. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that's what it takes, because if I would have been introduced in the beginning to everything, I don't know that I would have been able to handle it very well.
Yeah.
But the way that it happened was that I got to spend time one-on-one with Allison, and I got to grow with her, and we grew together. And when we started working towards getting custody, we didn't really know what it was going to be like having a daughter, and it was a little scary, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But we kept fighting for it, because I knew that getting her daughter was one of the most important things in her life. Getting custody of her daughter. And I knew that it was the right thing to do. Like, I saw the kind of woman that she had become, and I'm like, wow, I was just blown away. And I'm like, what better mom could a daughter ask for?
And how did you work on the relationship with her daughter? How was that transition?
That was difficult, but it's one of those where time really healed it.
Okay.
Because Lola's father, he struggles with addiction issues also, and he hasn't gotten help, he hasn't recovered, and he has in turn done things that Lola has taken personally.
Got it.
And that have really hurt her. And, you know, to be able to be there for her when her dad isn't, you know, that's a blessing.
Right.
It's the best way to describe it is, you know, if I look at my life today, I'm getting to be the man that God wants me to be.
Which now we can make that connection to the earlier conversation, that moment when you realized that you needed something bigger to look at. Right?
Right. And whenever I made the decision to give everything to my relationship with God, then things just started showing up.
That's pretty cool.
I'm like, I'm not going to date. I don't want anything to do with dating for a long time. And I'm just going to focus on my relationship with God and build that and see what happens.
Right.
And I was talking to one of my good friends, Pam, and she had told me, oh, you need to start dating. I think you're ready for it. And I told her, there's no way, Pam, no way I want to start dating. And 2 weeks later, I met Allison.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, like, I need to hang out with her. Like, she was so full of energy and so free.
Yeah.
Like, she had no worries. Everything to her is a blessing, which people like that are difficult to find, that really see everything that happens as positive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to vouch for that. I mean, the day that I met her, it was just like, she was so giving and so warm, and like we had known each other forever, and that's difficult. That's a hard thing, but good for you. I think I like your honesty, because I think a lot of dads or stepdads feel guilty that they find that making that connection is difficult. And because I've known several friends of mine whose partners have children, and they feel bad that like there's not this connect, there's not this instant falling in love with like, oh, you're gonna be my kid and you're gonna be my stepdad or my dad and we're happy. And they're like, oh my God, it's taking some time, but it takes time. It's another relationship that you have to form and earn the trust.
To be honest, it's even harder filling the role as a stepdad than it was going into a relationship with Allison. Because with Lola, she already had a dad.
Right.
You know, she didn't need me. So I started out approaching her as like a friend, like, hey, let's play, let's hang out. And she's so bright and so full of joy and light, like her mom. And that was the one thing that I noticed the first time I met her, is that she was so loving. And I can remember I was sitting on the floor in Virginia playing with her, and I looked down and she was rubbing my arm.
Oh.
And I'm like, wow, like for a kid to just come up to someone that they hadn't met before and be that loving, it's just such a blessing.
And I think, I don't know this, but maybe you can, when the kids are meeting the boyfriend or the girl, you shouldn't take anything too personal in the beginning.
You can't.
Right? Because you're the stranger. You're coming into their turf, because there's them and their parent. You're coming into it's like they're the home team and you're the visitor, and you just got to play by their rules in the beginning, right?
Right, but it's the same way as any other relationship in your life. You need to look at it as, how can I make that person's life better?
That's pretty cool. I like that.
And that's something that the pastor at my church, Pastor Dave, taught me. He taught me that our number one goal on relationships is we should always leave people better than what we found them.
I like that. That's pretty cool.
So I took that approach with her, and I said, how can I be of service to her? How can I make her life better?
That's cool.
And that's how it built. You know, it started with her being in a bad environment, and we needed to get her out. So we made probably 8 to 10 trips to Virginia, and court cases and lawyers. And we kept doing the right thing and putting the right foot forward and, you know, fighting for the good. And then one day the judge says, okay, we're awarding full custody to you, Allison. And It's like, wow, like this is real. Like we just got a daughter.
Right. But I think I'm kind of like blown away because we both come back, we both have that same recovery, 12-step foundation. And I know a lot of people out there are like, you're going to throw that into the conversation. But I think when you have that as a foundation, you always go back to it. Cause I even tell people, like, how can I be of service? Like, it's part of my conversation with people, especially when I'm volunteering for something or I know somebody needs something. It's like, how can I be of service? It's not, what's the job or what can I do? It's like, let me just be of service. And that, I know it's going to help you, but it's going to make me feel better that I did something. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's something you brought up, the 12 steps, that, you know, I think it gets a little bit of a bad rep. But basically, when you work through the 12 steps, it teaches you how to get right with yourself, how to get right with others, and how to get right with God.
Yeah.
And, you know, once you do that and you clear up everything that eats at you and bothers you, then you have a clean slate and you can move forward and you can start making good decisions.
Right.
And helping people and giving instead of taking.
Yeah.
And that's really what the 12 steps did for me.
And I'll admit to people, it's not always easy. It's not always easy to go, okay, this isn't about me. This is about who I'm helping. So I need to get my ego out of the way. And I think I started telling you this morning about, like, and I'll confess it on the air. I did this little editing thing for somebody yesterday and I thought it was really awesome. And then they wrote me back and said, it's really great, but we want to do our own thing. And I was like, how dare you? How dare you? And I pretty much said, no, I'm not going to help you with your stuff, like you on your own. And then this morning on the way here, I'm driving and I have the voice text and I was like, okay, Google text. Like, I apologize. I let my ego get in the way, but I couldn't go on today without letting that go. So I don't know. Okay. That's my little confession moment. Okay, let's move forward. So now you're putting yourself together. You're trying to do the best. You're putting this little family together, and you're having, and now a business too on top of all that. You want to tell them about your business venture?
Yeah.
It's not a venture. It's a business now.
We have grown really quickly. I started out in my home as a hobby. I own a company that manufactures e-liquid for the vapor industry.
Uh-huh.
And I started out, I used to smoke probably half a pack a day. And it's one of those things to where you know it's bad for you, but you say, it's not bad today. Like in the long run, yeah, it's bad.
Excuse me.
Today it's okay.
I never heard it put that way. But okay.
And like days build on days until you get to that point where it destroys your health.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
But, you know, you don't focus on the end goal. You focus on today it's not going to kill me.
All right.
So.
That's funny. I was just thinking, were you smoking when I met you?
Yeah.
I don't remember you smoking.
Yeah, I smoked about half a pack a day. And I was introduced to vaping, and for the first time, when I tried it, I said to myself in my head, wow, if I had one of these devices, I could quit smoking cigarettes. And that was the first time I had tried patches and gum and all that stuff. And, you know, to be honest, that was garbage for me.
Okay.
It didn't work. And when I tried vaping, I'm like, I'm in. Sign me up.
Cool.
So that night I ordered in a couple devices. They call them mods. And I got those in, went to my local vape shop, picked up some juice to put in it. And the problem that I found is I would go through half a bottle and I would be so sick of the flavor that I would throw the other half in the trash.
Huh.
And no matter what flavors I tried on the market, it was the same pattern. So I thought to myself, if I can't buy anything that I like, maybe I'll just make it. So it started off, you know, me playing crazy man, scouring the internet. Well, how do you make e-liquid? What's in here? And I ordered in a bunch of test supplies and I got in my kitchen and I started mixing and I said, wow, I'm going to create some great stuff.
Yeah. What was your first one?
Well, I started to create some great stuff, and for probably the first 2 months, it was absolute garbage. Like, I couldn't even give it away. I'm like, hey, you want some vape juice? They're like, let me smell it. They're like, I'm okay. Thank you, though.
There comes Ryan, run.
Yeah.
He's going to make us try his stuff.
And then I noticed that I started getting better because I could watch other people, and they're like, well, this isn't bad. Oh, I like this. Oh, man, that's great. I love it. To, hey, you think I can buy a bottle of that off of you?
Wow.
And when I heard that, I thought, wow, there's a business opportunity here. What if I can take this large scale and, you know, I can create a career out of giving back and helping others the same way that I got off cigarettes. So I went ahead and I got some recipes that were really good. And I remember I ordered bottles in before I even had labels or a name or a logo or anything. And I insisted on having purple bottles. And purple, you know, it's the color of royalty.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite colors. And I ordered them in. There was nothing like it on the market. Everybody else was in round, like clear brown bottles, and mine were like in your face,
Yeah.
purple square bottles. And then I started on the logo design, and I knew in my head what I wanted, but it is the hardest thing in the world to get somebody to create what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
So I worked with a designer for about 3 months, and they kept giving me trash. And I'm like, oh wow, look at this. They pieced clip art together from the internet. And finally, I learned how to stand up in business. And I said, look, what you're giving me is trash. So you need to go back to the drawing board. You need to restart from scratch. And you need to create me a custom logo that is meaningful, that has these elements in it. And I was direct and I was to the point. And a week later, they sent me over the logo, and I'm like, wow, that captures everything that's in my head. And our original logo is the tree of life with the circle of life behind it. And then we have the chakra system going down the tree trunk, and the roots go down, and the roots are in the shape of hands, and that depicts, to me, that's God's hands.
That's pretty cool. And we'll take a picture of it so you guys can see it. Well, because when we walked in, you were showing me around your office this morning, when we walked into the warehouse, and I looked at the bottles, and I don't smoke or vape, but it immediately got my attention. I thought, oh wow, I like that bottle. I just want a bottle. So for somebody that doesn't use any of that, if it got my attention, I'm sure somebody who does vape would probably be like, oh wow, this is really cool. I mean, and I say that because I wouldn't know the difference. If I walked into a regular vaping store, I would be like, I don't know what to get. But you're right, it would get my attention just to see the little purple bottle. And knowing the chakras, I'd be like, ooh, that's really royal. That's very spiritual. And because purple is the crown chakra, is the spiritual connection. Mm-hmm. So it now that you explained the logo, it makes sense that you would have a purple bottle and the hands of God together as one, because that's what it is basically. So anyway, little chakra education there for you guys. How has been, we talked about the employees in that relationship earlier, but how has been the main guy, the boss, and I don't like the word boss, because the creator of your brand, of your company, how does that make you feel?
It still, to this day, floors me that the product that I created in my kitchen as a hobby can be purchased all over the world.
Right.
There's people in China that know my brand, that love our e-liquid, and that to me it's overwhelming, like with joy that I can create something that not just helps people like within reach, but then a little bit farther and then throughout the US, and now like all the way across the globe in China, people are vaping our liquid. And the flavor that they are just head over heels for is a Southern Peach Sweet Tea.
Wow.
And that goes back to my Midwest roots.
Hey, gotta have the sweet tea. You know, being from Texas, I'm like, ooh, sweet tea, yeah. Go ahead.
And that's something, everybody tries it and they're like, wow, that's really good. Who came up with this recipe? And then that opens up an opportunity for me to tell them a little bit of my story and growing up in the Midwest and how it was different.
Yeah?
Completely different than California.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Explain to me, if you can, because people know a brand. People will know a brand before they know your name. How does it feel to see your baby basically being recognized?
It's a lot of joy and a lot of accomplishment and then pride.
Yeah.
Like I know that they're choosing my brand over thousands of others on the market.
Because there is a lot out there.
Right. The market is very saturated right now. But for them to pick my brand, that means a lot to me personally. That they're choosing what I created because I couldn't find anything on the market that I liked. So I went to the drawing board, and now I'm able to share that with others because our e-liquid it's very unique, especially our first line that we did. There's, the Southern Peach Sweet Tea, and then there's one that is a cucumber, melon, and hibiscus blend.
Wow.
Yeah, and we do very unique combinations that most people would never think of putting together.
Okay.
But I'm just in the lab putting it all together.
How, as a small company still, do you keep your standards, your quality? Because you're growing. I mean, from the first time that you mentioned it to now, you've grown quite a bit. How do you how do you keep that level of quality and standards?
That goes back to the discussion we had on employees, with having that good relationship with employees to where I can train them to do things exactly the way that I would do them. And they listen, and there's that almost friendship, and there's that respect and trust, and they want to do well.
Cool.
So, we have an ISO lab in-house, and I trained our lab technician to make e-liquid the same way that I did it, except now we're on a much larger scale than how I used to mix.
Would you work for you?
I would. I honestly would, because we're very, very laid back here. I'm not the kind of boss that... I'm like you. I don't like the word boss. But I'm not the type of person that is all over employees with, come on, I need this, I need that. I don't yell.
Right.
97, 98% of the time. I just trust that, the people, they do their best, they work hard, and I would much rather have someone try their best and make an effort and make an occasional mistake than someone that's scared to take, that leap and do things.
Okay, because now we've gone full circle in the conversation. We started with your employees, we came around to family, your business, and we're back to the employees again. What is the thread, or is there a thread that holds it all together?
We're back to the relationships and, what Dave taught me, treating people, with respect and dignity, and seeing what I can offer them.
Yeah.
It's all about giving. Absolutely. In every aspect of my life.
And how important is that, again, I'm going to bring back that foundation of being good with yourself.
That's something that I will give during the majority of my day, but when it comes time for my meditation, the things that I have to do to be at peace, there's no replacement, there's nothing interfering with that. Like, that is the number one most important thing, because if I don't have that, then I'm useless to everyone else.
Yeah, because from the outside in, I'm looking at it and going, your day starts with you focusing on you. How can I be better for myself? And then your family, your business, your employees, or your staff, your customers, because now we kind of didn't talk about the customers, but your customers, new and returning, and then it comes back to the end of the day, back to you. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. You basically described the cycle of my day. I mean, I wake up, I do me for a bit, and then I'm all about work, where I give 120% at work. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm definitely not a slacker. And I give everything I have during the day. And when I go home, I'm exhausted every day. But what I've learned to do is I leave work early. And all of my employees, they know what I do. They know that come 4 o'clock, I start getting a little bit shifty and I start pushing people away, and I'm like, yeah, let's deal with that in the morning.
Right.
And then I go home and I have me time every day. I meditate. Sometimes I'll take a nap. But I'm always going back to recenter, not just for myself, but for my family. Because if I don't have that time set aside to where I get to readjust from the day, then I'm not giving my family the attention that they deserve.
How important is it to have a partner that understands that?
Very, very important, because Allison will respect that, you know, that's what I have to do in order to be me.
Yeah.
You know, the person that she fell in love with, you know, I have to do things to maintain that, and that's one of the things that, you know, there's no give or take with that. Like, that's how it is.
Right.
Like, I have to have that every day.
Because how many times, or how many relationships, I know I've been in relationships like that, where you walk in the door and the moment you walked in there, like, it's like, this didn't happen and this happened and that, and I keep thinking, this conversation could have waited 5 minutes, because it changed absolutely nothing whether you told me now or 5 minutes later. Nothing's going to change. But if you're giving me that 5 minutes just to, like, I'm home. Let me take off the work hat. Let me put on, you know, like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. let me take off, you know, let me put on the cardigan. And then now you're focused. But I think we've all been in that relationship where you walk in the door and it's like, well, let me tell you. And you're like, oh, just freaking got home. Like, really? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because if that does happen, and it has happened where, you know, for some reason, I have to stay at work late, and then I don't get a chance to go meditate. Like, I'm a wreck, and I'm very tired, and in my head, I'm very short with people.
Yeah.
My patience and tolerance and love aren't where they need to be. And I think because of that, Allison understands, and she wants me to get that in.
Right.
She's
right.
like, oh boy. Yeah. Let's just let him readjust for a minute.
Yeah. We'll be back in a minute.
Yeah. Give him a little time.
Before we run out of time, can you go back in time to 2012 and give you some words of wisdom or a little piece of advice? What would you tell you?
I would tell myself not to take everything so seriously. Because one of the things that I used to do is I used to stress about everything. I used to worry about things being exactly perfect how I wanted them. And today, like, at the end of the day, when I lay my head down on the pillow, like, it's all just silly shit.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Usually is, yeah. Yeah.
And if I get worked up during the day, at night, when I go back to, you know, recentering, I think about my day and I go over it and I'm like, wow, why did I get stressed about that?
Yeah.
Like, what was the point in stressing?
There is a more relaxed energy about you now than there was when I first met you. I remember you used to be just, there was always this little edge, and you don't have that anymore. Well, I won't say anymore. You don't have it as much anymore, but I mean, you have to have it, owning a company. There are still people that count on you and depend on you, and, but yes, your energy is much more relaxed nowadays, so.
And like, I can tell a difference in myself. I like to measure it by joy, by enjoyment.
Cool.
You know, like, I work very hard and I'm very busy, but at the same time, my life is very full and happy and joyful, and like, I get to laugh a lot.
Nice.
Not just at home, but at work. You know, everybody that I surround myself with, I have like a family relationship with them.
Nice.
And that's employees, girlfriend, daughter, like, that's everything is so meaningful to me. That's
pretty cool. Well, I can say for myself that we don't get to see each other often, but, you know, I've got that brotherly love for you, and of course, Mama, your mom, she makes sure that. Plus, she was there for me when I got sick. She was always a phone call away. So that to me I always hold that in my heart. Plus, every time we see each other, it is a good time. I always enjoy being around you. Are you enjoying what you're doing? Are you enjoying your life?
I am. I get to do certain things that I never got a chance to do like 5 years ago. Today I get to travel. I get to go places with my family. I get to go to concerts and even simple things like, I'm going out to see a movie.
Right.
Like that's enjoyable to me. And I think it's just having that positive attitude and outlook on, what you're doing and not taking yourself so seriously.
Yeah.
And, work hard, play hard, definitely.
Yeah. And I particularly like the fact that term has a whole new meaning now. Like for me, almost 10 years later, of play hard. It's not the play hard before, but I still get to play hard and I still get to work hard and I get to do what I love. And that is such a difference.
Right. And like we keep getting blessed with opportunities to grow more and to extend our reach. And that's one of the things I've been doing for the past 5.5 months is getting ready to launch a new company that is going to be able to give the consumer an opportunity to, support our products and to sell our products. And we're going to put money in their pocket to maybe make their life better, their life easier. And that's something that, takes a lot of work. We're starting a network marketing company, and we will be the first e-liquid company to enter into that space.
Wow. Well, one thing we have not mentioned is the name of your company. Can you tell the guys, now that they've heard about this sweet, peach sweet tea? Is that right?
Uh-huh.
What is it? Where can they find it? What's going on?
That is under our first brand, Kingdom Elixir.
Okay.
And now we have a parent company that sits over Kingdom, and it goes by the name KE Brand.
Okay.
And we also have another line called Last E-Liquid. And all of our products can be found on our website, www.kebrand.com. And you can pick up, the Southern Peach Sweet Tea. If you're into the Cucumber Melon Hibiscus, we have a full dessert line with Last E-Liquid for those looking for sweeter, heavier, more flavorful Fat Kid E-Liquid, basically. Things that I like.
I think that's one of the cool things is that you're doing things that you would use yourself.
Right. Yeah, every product I do, I'm probably the toughest critic on myself.
Cool.
Then, I know when something is good and when it's not. And I won't put out product that's not, like, bar none, this is great.
Well, I found the website, so for those of you listening, it would be on our, on the Put It Together podcast Facebook page, so go find it there if you haven't found it on your own already. I will also be putting out a little bit of more information on the brand, so make sure you look out for that. As usual, words of wisdom. What words of wisdom can you share with our audience? And it can be on life, work, family.
The best thing that I can tell people moving forward is to stay in the present moment and not get distracted by, I should have done this, or, I need to do that. Focus on what's given to you right here, right now. And that's something that I was taught was that, no matter what I think right here, right now. I'm right where I need to be.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm right where I need to be.
Yeah. No matter how much we want to think that, oh, well, you know, if I have this or if I do that, then I'll be happy. Then things will be better. When it's like, no, just wake up. Just open your eyes and look and realize that you have everything you need and life is good. Like, look at the blessings, count your blessings, and stay positive.
I think that's a perfect place to stop it. Life is good. Ryan, thanks for being back on the show, man. I love you.
It's been a pleasure.
I love your family. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I think, like you said, it's the right time. It was just the right time to do it. For everybody listening, I feel like today I was off my game a little bit, but it's kind of like it's like interviewing somebody from your family. You don't want to go in too deep because you're like don't want to step on toes, but you're like, but deep is where the great story is. And definitely with you, over the years, we've sat down and just in the living room and just had some really amazing conversations. And it's you're one of those people that I'm always thinking, crap, I should have been recording this. Like, this is such a good conversation. But I'm glad that you finally made it back on the show. Won't be the last time. I'm sure we'll sit down and talk again.
Absolutely.
Because we do have some really good conversations. I want to say hi to Allison and Mama. I'm sure they'll be listening at some point. Thank you. Thank you for just allowing me and Christian to be part of the family and including us. I won't go too deep, but we were just part of a really great moment in your family's history, and Christian and I were part of it, and we just felt so blessed and so grateful to be part of it. So we really appreciate it.
We were blessed to have you there.
Thank you. And before we get all mushy here, I want to thank you guys for listening. Ryan, thanks again for being on the show. I want to thank my producer, Mr. Kevin Moyers. Thank you, sir. Again, inviting all of you guys to go to abnormalentertainment.com. Check all the shows on the network. You can follow me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I almost forgot. At Lil Mexican, LILMESICAN. If you want to be on the show, you can find me on any of those social media sites, or you can email me at danielggarza@hotmail.com. DANIELGGARZA@hotmail.com. Just put podcast on the subject so I know what you're looking for. Who can be on my show? Anybody can be on my show. If you have struggled, if you put a company together, if you have lived your life and come out on the other end, I want to hear about it. We've all put it together somehow. So I want to thank Ryan, everybody for listening, and this is Daniel Garza saying, hey, put it together.
Subscribe to Put It Together on iTunes, Stitcher, and at abnormalentertainment.com/putittogether. Find Put It Together on Facebook and tweet Daniel at Lil Messican, LILMESICAN. And for more podcasts, comics, books, movies, and more, head to abnormalentertainment.com.
You've been listening to the Abnormal Entertainment Network.